Okay, so we have officially made it to Friday, which is great. 1 week down, 3 more to go. So today you've got your first assignment to do for Unit 1, and we move forward with Unit 2. So the assignment can be a little long because it is the equivalent to like a unit test. My cat's playing in her box right now, so if you hear that. Okay, so it is a little long, and then you've got like just a little funny thing going on here. You've got your unit outline, so there are 5 lessons to it. So I think my goal was to get 1 unit done in 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. So you're gonna start working on your independent study unit. So this is 10% of your final grade. And it requires you to choose a topic that interests you and conducts a study to analyze large amounts of data using either a 1 variable statistic tool. So we'd see that in Unit 3, a 2 variable statistic tool. So that would be Unit 1, and then probability, which is Unit 4 and 5. Okay, so before you begin your project, you must create a thesis. So a thesis is, if you haven't taken science or history of any sort or done any essays, so it's a formal statement or question that your project will discuss or answer. To begin creating a thesis, you must first determine what topics interest you and then determine what concepts related to that topic you want to study. Just the cat. And so one way to start doing that is to make a mind map. So a mind map is a visual display used in brainstorming to illustrate relationships. So for example, I really enjoy ice fishing, so I would probably do a study on that. So how many hours spent on the lake versus how many fish you catch would be an example. So look at things that you really enjoy, right? It always makes your project a lot more interesting for you, and you want to end up doing it because you're invested in it. It's something that you enjoy. Okay, so start by making a mind map of your interest with you at the center. So you would put your name here. So mine would say Miss Lafreniere. Start off as simple as possible and draw arrows to show how topics are connected and work from the inside out. Okay. And then you've got an extended mind map. So pick one of the topics from your mind map and extend it with subtopics. Okay, so for example, you've got this guy really enjoys church, family, sports, school, and fitness. And he goes into a bit more detail. So for entertainment, he looks at television and movies and music. And then for fitness, he's got, physical activity rates, heart disease. For school, he really enjoys math and physical ed, sports, so work on extending your mind map, and it'll really kind of narrow it down into something that you are invested in. So once you've done that, you're going to look at thesis question development. So once you have narrowed down your topic, you will need to pose a problem that you want to plan to investigate. So for a lesson today, we're going to look at the example of money in sports. Not really my forte. So you're going to brainstorm and create a number of questions that can be explored by using the stats information. So for example, how many or how do people at my school feel about high salaries? in professional sports. Okay, so keep in mind when you're creating your survey, I am able to send it to my 2 other math classes and they'll answer your questions for you. So you'll actually have raw data, which is fantastic. Another question would be like, how have salaries paid to professional hockey players changed from 1960 to the present? That does require some research other than like you can't really make a survey for that, right? Like you don't know any professional hockey players, I don't think anyways. But that would require some research. Is there a relationship between a very large salary increase to an athlete and his or her subsequent performance? So in other words, you would look at data of like their salary versus their performance. So, you know, if they have higher salaries, are they more likely to do better, to get more goals, to get more scores, and whatnot? Another question could be along the lines of, does the amount a country spends to prepare its athletes for the Olympics correspond to the country's success at the game? So you could look at different countries and how much money they spend on training their athletes for the Olympics and what their success rates are. Did they do really well at the Olympics? If they spent, you know, $10 billion training them. Okay, so I'm clearing this. Once you've got your thesis question done, you're going to look at the analysis questions. So questions to ask of your thesis. So you're looking at, is it good? Okay, so what are the main variables in my question? Okay, so what's your independent variable? What's your dependent variable? So for the example of my ice fishing one, time would be the independent and number of fish caught would be your dependent. Can these variables be measured statistically? Okay, so can you have numbers that are associated with it? And is there enough data to make an interesting analysis? Okay, so you're not going to pick something that doesn't have any data, right? You can't create a thesis, you can't write a report on that. It just won't work out. So you have to make sure that there's enough data. Once you have chosen your thesis, analyze it using the 3 questions above to make sure your study will be able to provide an insightful answer. Okay, so your thesis, I don't care for it being questions. I'm a history and math nerd, so I prefer statements, and it gets you kind of prepared for university with theses. Is there a relationship between a very large salary increase to an athlete and his or her subsequent performance? Okay, so that's your question. Now, looking at your 3 questions above, so what are main variables? So your main variables would be 1, your players' salaries, which is your independent, and performance statistics, so like goals or home runs, etc. And that is your dependent variable. Can these variables be measured statistically? So yes, however, it may be difficult to choose which performance statistics to use. So that is one of the issues. And I don't have room here for number 3, so I'm going to clear this and we're going to answer 3. Okay, and then number 3, our question was, is there enough data to make an interesting analysis? So yes, there would be a lot of available data for performance or professional athletes. My goodness. And their salaries and performance. Okay, so a project tip is one way of posing a problem is to generate questions from data. So for example, once a topic has been identified, do a bit of research. So it helps you to create those questions. So you want data from like books, from the internet, anything like that, that'll be helpful to you to create that. And so this is due on the 11th, which is one of these days. I want to say it's Tuesday that it's due. So I just need your thesis question. Yeah, so Tuesday. So I just need your thesis question and all of these questions answered. So do your own mind map, do the thesis question development, answer your 3 questions. So what are your main variables? Can they be measured? Is there enough data to make it interesting? And that's what you're going to submit to me on the 11th, so on Tuesday. Okay, and that's really only your task for today. So besides the assignment, you're working through that looks god awful. You're gonna work through doing your own part, like number 1. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this, and you're gonna follow along the lesson 1 and create your own, and that's what you're gonna submit to me. Okay, so good luck, make it interesting, do it something that you care about, and all will be good. All right, enjoy, guys.